Chapter 8. The Things in the Dark. While Ellie was taking a much-needed hot shower in the crew deck below, Finn and Amara were sitting in the dim, red emergency light of the lounge, lost in deep thought about what had just happened. Finn leaned back against the worn leather couch, holding a glass of water in his hand, though he hadn't taken a sip in 10 minutes. His mind was racing, trying to process the sheer, terrifying weight of what the girl had just laid at their feet. Amara paced the threadbare antique rug before the cold, hollow fireplace, her steps restless and sharp. Despite her agitation, her shoulders sagged under exhaustion. The frantic escape from Vespera, Leon's loss, and the nerve-wracking spacewalk pressed her features into weary lines. "Biological jump gates," Amara muttered, running a tired hand nervously through her messy red braid. She stopped and looked at Finn, her green eyes wide in the gloom. "Do you have any idea what that means, Finn? The amount of money, the sheer, staggering political power required to build and maintain the Syndicate Gate network. It dictates the entire galactic economy. Whoever controls the gates controls the stars." Finn nodded slowly, rubbing his jaw. "And if Athelgard can replace that multi-trillion credit infrastructure with something run on psychic people power, or in this case, abducted children amplified by corporate tech, they won't just be the richest biotech firm in the sector. They'll be completely untouchable. They could bypass syndicate checkpoints entirely, move fleets without anyone knowing. No wonder they sent a Black Ops cleanup crew to scrub Leon," Amara said, her voice dropping to a harsh, angry whisper. "If word got out that Athelgard was trying to break the gate monopoly using human experimentation, it would start a corporate war. The Syndicate would turn their orbital platforms into dust. These people aren't just dangerous, Finn. They're playing for the throne." Finn set his glass down on the low table with a sharp clink. "They're playing with fire. It's not just the politics, Amara. It's what Ellie said. The things in the dark." Amara stopped pacing. She hugged her arms across her chest, a sudden involuntary shiver running down her spine. "The shadows. I've been flying the void for 10 years, Finn murmured, staring out the viewport at the endless, glittering black of deep space. "I've heard every spacer myth and ghost story from here to the core worlds. Phantom signals, ships disappearing in the dark, voices on the dead channels. We all laugh it off as space madness or bad life support scrubbers. But the way she described it, brushing up against something huge and cold in the void. You think she actually woke something up?" Amara asked, her voice tight. "Or is it just the machine messing with her head? A side effect of the neural amplification?" "I don't know," Finn admitted grimly. "But whatever it is, it terrified a kid who was already used to being tortured in a black site lab. If Athelgard is ripping holes in space-time with young, amplified minds, there's no telling what they are letting in." Before Amara could respond, the soft whir of the companionway hatch sliding open interrupted them. Ellie walked slowly into the lounge. The grim, institutional gray tunic was gone. In its place, she was wearing a pair of Finn's old, faded cotton pajamas. They were comically large on her thin frame. The sleeves were rolled up past her wrists, and the legs were cuffed several times so she wouldn't trip over the hems. Her dark hair was damp and combed back, and the grime of her long, terrifying ordeal in the hidden compartment of the silly goose had been scrubbed away. She looked clean, but absolutely, profoundly exhausted. The dark circles under her eyes were bruised and heavy, and her small shoulders slumped with the weight of her survival. Finn's posture softened at once, forcing the grim specters of war and cosmic dread aside. He managed a gentle, reassuring smile for Ellie. Better? Finn asked gently. Ellie nodded silently, shuffling across the rug and climbing back onto the leather couch. She pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms tightly around her oversized pajama legs. Amara sat down softly beside her, keeping a respectful distance but offering a comforting presence. You look ready for sleep, kid. Ellie rested her chin on her knees, her heavy eyes drifting toward the dark, unlit emitter of the hollow fireplace. I'm tired, she whispered, but I'm afraid to close my eyes. Whenever I sleep, I can hear the machine humming, and I can feel them. Finn leaned forward in his armchair, his heart aching for the girl. He had spent the last 24 hours burning with a cold, desperate need for revenge. But looking at Ellie, wrapped in his old clothes and terrified of her own dreams, his priorities crystallized. Leon hadn't died to start a war with Athelgard. He had died to save this girl. You don't have to be afraid here, Ellie, Finn said firmly, his voice filled with a quiet, unshakable resolve. We're running dark. They can't track us. And when we reach Amara's ship, we're going to take you somewhere safe. Somewhere they can never find you. Ellie looked at him, her wide eyes searching his face for any hint of a lie. Do you promise? I promise, Finn said, meaning every word of it. Amara offered Ellie a soft, exhausted smile. Come on, kid. Let's get you into a real bed. You can have the spare cabin to yourself. Ellie didn't argue. She uncurled her legs and slipped off the couch, her oversized pajama cuffs dragging slightly on the rug. Amara gently guided her toward the companionway hatch, leading her down to the crew cabins on the lower deck. Finn watched them disappear, exhaling a long, weighted breath. Alone in the lounge's red gloom, he listened to the soft hum of the life support, letting the silence settle around him. At last he rose and made his way to the flight deck. The cockpit waited just as he'd left it, awash in dim red light. The Emerald drifted silently through the debris fields, her navigation computer guiding a flawless, slow burn toward Relay 9. Finn sank into the pilot's chair and tapped his wrist comm, linking it to the main console. He pulled up the encrypted data spike salvaged from the Silly Goose. He pulled up Leon's final flight logs. His fingers danced over the keyboard, skimming through weeks of dull manifests and routine entry logs. At last, he found the data he needed. His brow furrowed. The navigational trace showed the Goose departing Droven's orbit, executing a standard sublight burn outward. The trajectory was a perfect, straight line toward Celis. But just as the ship approached the orbital perimeter of the dead planet's moon, Umbrix, the data abruptly corrupted. There was a 12-hour gap in the telemetry. The log simply resumed with the Goose already in transit back to Echelon, bearing the false manifest for the accident at loading dock 44B. There was no record of orbital descent, no atmospheric friction logs, and absolutely no record that Leon had ever landed. Finn leaned back in the chair, a cold knot forming in his stomach. A standard ship's computer couldn't just forget a planetary landing. The core drive had been intentionally, expertly sliced and scrubbed. It was a terrifying testament to how powerful Athelgard truly was. They hadn't just paid off a dockmaster. They had erased Leon's entire journey to the Black Site with corporate-grade software designed to leave absolutely no digital footprint. The soft hiss of the cockpit hatch sliding open pulled Finn from his dark thoughts. Amara walked onto the flight deck, slumping exhaustedly into the co-pilot's chair. She rubbed her eyes, letting out a long breath. She was asleep before her head hit the pillow, Amara murmured. Poor kid is running on nothing but terror and adrenaline. She glanced over at the glowing data scrolling across Finn's console. Did you find anything on the Goose's drives? I found a lot of missing data, Finn replied grimly, tapping the screen to highlight the 12-hour gap. Leon was heading straight for Umbrix, but the logs were scrubbed right as he entered the moon's orbit. There's no record he ever touched down. Amara stared at the corrupted files, her jaw tightening. Well, it confirms what Ellie told us. They must have a facility on that rock, and they are doing what they can to make it look otherwise. She turned in the chair to face him, the red emergency lighting casting deep shadows across her sharp features. But what next, Finn? Amara asked, her voice dropping to a heavy, realistic whisper. What do we do after we get to my ship? We have a stolen corporate asset sleeping in the spare bunk, and an Athelgard hit squad looking for blood. If we try to run, we can't run forever. They control the gates. They have eyes on every major port in the sector. Finn stared out the reinforced viewport at the slow, silent rotation of Draven's orbital rings. She was right. Running forever was impossible, but taking on a multi-system corporation was suicide. They needed to vanish, to find a place so worthless and forgotten that even Athelgard would overlook it. Maybe we can go somewhere I know, Finn said slowly, the idea solidifying in his mind. We can't hide forever, Amara, but we need time to think, time to figure out what to do with Ellie. Where? Amara asked, skepticism lacing her tone. There isn't a rock in this system Athelgard doesn't have a sensor net pointed at. They don't point sensors at graveyards, Finn replied, his dark eyes meeting hers. We go to Kiln. Amara blinked, surprised. Your home world? Finn, that planet was stripped bare 50 years ago. There's nothing there but rusted mining rigs and dust storms. Exactly, Finn replied, a grim smile flickering. It's a dead world. No corporations, no port authority, and I know every inch of it. He turned back to the console, staring at the empty black void on the screen. I haven't been back to the bone pit since I was a kid, Finn murmured, his voice dropping to a quiet rasp. But I know the canyons and the old mining tunnels. We park your ship in one of the deep ravines. We power down, and we vanish. Amara stared at him for a long moment, weighing the logic of hiding in a dead, forgotten wasteland. Slowly she nodded. All right, Amara agreed, leaning back in the co-pilot's chair and closing her tired eyes. After we get to my ship, we set a course for Kiln. We go to ground.